looks like we have about 40 people on, which is a good turnout. Thank you everybody for coming on at 6:30 at night on a Thursday. Can't really be anywhere else but our homes anyway, at least in the New York metro area. So really appreciate it. You could be watching Tiger King, but you're here with us, so we really appreciate that. So we have So Mike and I run Young Real Estate Professionals, and Mike, you want to talk about YREP for those who aren't familiar?
Yeah, it's a real estate networking group that a couple of us started about 19 years ago, actually, and we've kept it going once a month. Have an event in New York and actually now in New Jersey as well. And 150 people come every event all across commercial real estate. And once the virus ends, we'll go back to New York and start having events again.
Yeah, that's how I met you I met you like a long time ago.
Exactly.
Yeah, I met you probably 2 or 3 years ago at one of them.
Right. Yeah. It's awesome.
And so, I'm Chris Papa. I work for the Backrack Group. I run TBG Real Estate, which is a real estate search recruiting division within Backrack Group. I'm in California right now, but we're headquartered in Manhattan. We started in Manhattan. We're based in Manhattan. We have offices all over the country, and I've been doing recruiting for the real estate industry since 2004. I know I don't look that old, but it's true. And then Mickey, she's on the TBG real estate team, but she's much more. She does so much more.
Thanks. Yeah, so I work for Chris in the New York office, but sometimes travel to other things. I was supposed to be at ICSC next month, but that's canceled.
Right.
In Vegas. Maybe we can have a Vegas themed Zoom. And I've been in the business with my family my whole life, so I've always been around it, but I really like working for Chris, and so we're both here to help you coast to coast.
Coast to coast. And Mickey has a great perspective because she's come from the principal side. Her family has a family office, invests in real estate, and she's was an attorney and has a lot of different probably a little different perspective than I do on recruiting too. So
Great. So we have a pretty solid group of people here. So what we'll do is it'll still be a free-forming, open-ended kind of fireside chat, roundtable discussion, whatever you want to call it, where we're talking about a topic that is pretty relatable to a lot of the participants in this today, where is the job market in commercial real estate, post-COVID, even during COVID. Chris and Mickey have some really good insight, obviously, with the breadth of years they've been in the recruiting industry. We definitely want to hear from them and what are some of the hiring practices that have changed, and what what are the trends moving forward that you see continue to happen? I know, Chris and I talk probably on a daily basis, just kind of touching base. And I know, Chris, you're working on some assignments where there have been virtual hires. If you could kind of talk about that, and if you see that continuing to happen even post-COVID, and what kind of jobs are available in what asset classes, whether it's you're looking for an acquisitions role or brokerage role, where do you see the most opportunity post-COVID? And I know there's a lot of questions, but just kind of want to open up that.
I also want anyone who's attending here you can use the chat function in the middle of the bottom of the screen. Just click on that, which says chat. I think we're probably all Zoom, pretty fluent in Zoom, but if you're not, click on that and then it should open up and you can just type your questions and we can go down and answer them as we can. But as far as, Mickey had a great point the other day, or she and I were talking, I think yesterday or today, about family offices. Now, and I literally today just got a call from a big family, a decently sized family office. I was looking to hire a head of asset management. Now, and Mickey had a good point about this, which you can talk about a little bit, but how, family offices are not forced to put out capital, right? They, like the fund structure or whatever, like they, you have to put the capital out. But with family offices, like this is the best time for them, right? Because they're going to buy at a discount, and there's discounts coming. And so those are the places I feel where there's going to be activity and there might be some hiring, just because they're going to be the ones buying a lot more now than other places. Maybe, Mickey, you can elaborate on that since you work at a family office.
Yeah, so because family offices, it's more about wealth preservation than wealth creation, they tend to be very, very conservative. And a lot of the families who made their money in real estate made it 30 years ago. When people would, my dad used to tell me stories, my dad's 63, and he used to tell me stories about how people would basically give him land for free if he was willing to pay the taxes. And like, that is unheard of now, but we might see that again. And so when this first started happening, he and I started talking about how like he hasn't really bought anything except for, we bought my brother's pot farm. So that's a separate conversation we can talk about, because it's very high yield. But like, we've looked at, people send me deals all the time and they just don't paper out for us. But when the economy is seeing, we're going to see, I think, a lot more capital allocators who want to move out of other asset classes and into real estate. And the deals are going to be priced better. I think Chinese and Russian money is not going to be able to come here so easily after this because their governments won't allow it. And so it will leave more room for American investors for these scrappy, smaller shops who haven't been able to close on deals recently. And on the other sense, when people are in like anxiety mode, I think they like assets that they can see and touch and more real assets versus the more intangible assets. So I think that's all going to be good news for the real estate world.
Yeah. And generally, when things are slowing down, people try to get more asset management intensive. And so, like this family office today that called me, they never had anyone, they have some like junior asset managers, but then they're looking at their portfolio and they're thinking, hey, there's a lot more value that can be created out of this. And we're just not doing it. You know, we don't really need to, but it's like, if we just hire someone who can kind of oversee this portfolio and squeeze more value out of it, renegotiate the leases or whatever, something. Those, I remember during 2008 when I was recruiting, like everything turned into asset management and like workout roles. So all of a sudden that term workout was like everywhere.
Yeah.
And so I don't know, it's not going to be I don't think nearly as bad or whatever the right word is, but as severe as that. But, those are definitely the jobs. And we just got a couple jobs down in Florida doing workouts. We're connecting with, the banks and a lot of those workout shops just to like, hey, we're ready whenever you are. Like those jobs are going to be open. They're not maybe not the sexiest jobs all the time, but you learn a lot. I mean, people came out of that 2008 recession and just had learned so much from working out of those different properties. So that's where I see it. And also, for us, I mean, property management is still hot. Those are hot. I mean, well, okay. One, property management in general, like is always, if you're trying to get into real estate, I think, and you're young and you're like, I can't seem to break in, try something on the management side. I mean, you'll learn so much by learning how to operate a property. And they're looking for good young talent. I mean, it's hard for them to find it because not many people want to do it because it's not an easy job, but you do learn a lot. And so we have a lot of property management companies that are hiring. And we are working with some affordable housing investors and they're still going gangbusters because, they're like a more stable asset because they have, they're getting their rents from the government and, they're getting all these vouchers and Section 8 and all this kind of stuff. So they're not really hit that hard by this, at least the ones I'm working with. So we just placed, we're working on a affordable housing analyst role. So underwriting new deals for an affordable housing fund. And, people, then the one pushback we get a lot is like, I don't want to be pigeonholed into affordable housing. It's like, well, it's not easy to get a sexy generalist role at like a place, you know what I mean? Like just get in anywhere, just get the reps in no matter what the asset class, right?
Yeah. And that's what I totally agree with you. So I was speaking to a couple colleges in the past couple weeks, and one thing I would stress was that I'm sorry if I'm looking to the left. I have my notes here, but like the main thing I think if you're especially someone who's like 22, let's say, getting out of college, is get your feet wet somewhere. Learning real estate, seeing properties, whether it's office industrial or whether it's local or national, get your feet wet. It could be a healthcare real estate company that's active. It could be a rating agency that right now, like what I do at BlackRock, I'm analyzing distressed loans. That's hot right now. Fitch, Moody's, Standard & Poor's, I mean, those jobs, Servicers, Lennar, Midland, that are active right now because of the distress, they may have jobs. It may not be what you want to do down the road, is be an owner-operator or a developer, but you can really learn real estate at places like Kroll and even lenders like banks. You know, they may have lending jobs right now coming out, taking advantage of this.
Yeah.
You never know.
I see Daniel Asharian has a question. What advice would you give to a spring 2020 graduate who's looking to leverage their career in real estate and finance? Kind of Mike just sort of touched on that too. I mean, and what I tell every person who's trying to get out, like, one, what Mike created with this group is amazing, right? I mean, there's nothing, and she's the queen of networking in New York. Like everybody knows Mickey Penzer, because she's at every event. And that's, I mean, real estate is generally, especially in New York, is a small, I mean, we're headhunters, we recruit for the real estate industry. Like obviously there's a need for that too. But a lot of it, and especially like young grads, is you just got to get the hell in front of people all the time, right? I mean, Mickey, maybe you can elaborate a little bit more about networking. You're muted, Mick. Sorry, hold on, let me unmute you. Go ahead.
I think it's a little, sorry, they were vacuuming outside my door and my dog got a little antsy. This is Genghis Cohen. He goes to lots of real estate conferences. Most notably, he's a big participant at BizNow Ascent, and it's his favorite conference of the year, which takes place in Miami. But I think part of the reason that I have a lot of credibility in the industry is because I started going to these events when I was a teenager and just like asking people questions about what they do. And the more you ask, like, people want to talk about themselves. So if you don't want to start the conversation, just ask a question. And you don't have to volunteer that much information. And it's a little bit different with with COVID, obviously, because you can't go in person. So you kind of have to hack that. But participate in as many of these Zooms, ask questions. There's a lot of webinars. The more you know about the industry, the more people will respect you. But in terms of networking, my advice is always like, get yourself out there as much as you can, but also like volunteer in a more meaningful way. Like Mike, people will come to him all the time and he can get to probably anyone he needs to get to now because he put all this time and effort into building this community. And you know, like I'm very involved with APAC and UJ, and so I see the same people a lot, and I actually donate and I volunteer time. And so when I was switching careers, I was able to sit down with like the people who own big real estate firms one-on-one because they appreciated that I had volunteered for organizations they cared about. Or like even getting one of these people to forward your resume, they're much more likely to do that if they feel like you are also giving back. So especially like recent grads, that's the only way in the door. It's the best way in the door. But also I would say for recent grads, like try to find the job where you'll see the most volume of work and transactions. Because if you join a small firm, even if it's like a really good pedigreed firm and you only see a few transactions, you just won't learn enough. Whereas if you're like an analyst in brokerage or at a bank or at a lender, you'll see a lot more at a time. And you'll just learn more, see more of the market at a time, and you'll get a quicker ramp up.
Yeah. I mean, I think the most common thing we get from recent grads is, I want to be an acquisitions analyst. Everyone wants to be an acquisitions analyst. Everyone. And it's a very hard job to get, but like not everyone's willing to be but they all want to be at the principal side. They want to be at a well-funded firm with a lot of capital that's doing a lot of deals. And it's like, all right, well, so does everybody else. Right. So, but there's nothing wrong with going to like a mortgage shop or just underwriting deals on the brokerage side. Like it may not be as sexy. It may not be exactly what you envisioned when you got your degree. But I mean, if you want to build yourself up to maybe running your own shop one day or transitioning to another shop, like it doesn't really matter if you're just get the first couple years out of the way. Right. I mean, just get in there. It doesn't really matter once a couple of years. Like, believe me, we look at resumes all the time and we're not looking 10 years back. Oh, this guy worked at a brokerage shop. He's not good. It's like, doesn't matter. So check your ego at the door, and just do what it takes. I mean, and maybe you end up in a career like you didn't envision. Like I had every intention of working at a real estate private equity fund or developer, and I had no intention of being a recruiter. And I just took the job because I needed a job. And I'd work my way out of this job to another one in the principal side. And I ended up really liking what I did. So
and one thing I always
accident also. So
and one thing I tell, like, especially students, but young professionals, is that I'm older now. Your career is a career. It's not, you go to college and you end at 22, you start working, but you're going to from 22 to 29, you're going to network 100 times more than you did in college. When you go to New York or LA or Houston, you're going to learn about 10 times as many companies, not just Goldman Sachs and BlackRock, Blackstone. You're going to learn about the medium-sized fund or the medium-sized lender. And every day, whatever job you get during 22, 23, keep networking, not just YREP, APAC, anything, just network and build it. And then you'll learn about more companies. And then you'll say, okay, you'll like when I was in New York in real estate as a lender, I was at TIAA Craft, great company, but then I promoted myself by going to another company, and then I promoted myself by going to another company. So always network and just keep that going. I was speaking to Tulane University last week on a webinar. Someone asked me how many jobs I get through networking. 6 of the 8 jobs I got was just through calling a friend, and either alum or someone I knew, and that's how I got the job. It wasn't through LinkedIn. It was just through someone who I built a relationship with.
Yeah. And Anthony's a great example. I mean, he had no real estate background. I remember when he was at Vision, and you kind of, somehow you got your way into being an acquisitions analyst from I think you were doing music or something before that, right?
Somewhat. Yeah. But it goes back to what Chris and Mickey were saying. It's the focus is networking. I came out of college. I was doing music was close. Retail.
Was it retail?
I don't know which one's worse right now, so, to be honest. So yeah, I realized that it wasn't the career path I wanted to go down. It was consumer products. Although it was somewhat my own company I was running with a couple of partners, it just wasn't what Mike said, what you want your career to be, which lasts your lifetime. Because real estate, to me, real estate's a career. It's for me, it's my life. It's not just a job that I go to. It's something that I love and something that I'm passionate about. And a lot of people, what I really like about this business and the people like Chris, Mickey, and Mike, we're all passionate about what we do. And it doesn't really feel like work to us because we love doing it. So whether you're just breaking in the industry and you want to get a sense of it, you might end up loving it, but kind of, take it from that approach. So, and what Chris, Mickey, and Mike are saying, if you could just get your foot in the door somewhere, even if it's, something you may not want at the end of the day, as long as your foot is in the door, that's a great starting point. And to kind of follow up on that, we'll get to everybody's questions. And more of a question for Chris and Mickey. What would you say? We talked a lot about new grads and entry level roles, but what would you say someone who's been working in the business for 3 years, 5 years, 7 years, maybe even a decade, wanting to level up like Mike did? What kind of advice do you have for them, especially during this time? What's the best approaches they should be taking? And also, can you kind of talk about searching for and I can resonate with this a little bit. Searching for another job while you're employed, like what's the fine line there? You don't want to upset your boss if they find out, but you still need to grow as a person. And could you kind of talk about that dynamic a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, salary, as far as, do you mean leveling up as far as salary is concerned? Or just
It
going
doesn't
up,
have to be,
going up the ladder?
It could usually, and we all know that obviously
Yeah.
the more experience you have, as long as it's good experience, you do grow in salary. You may take a step back if it's, like you said, if they're in a bad market condition like we are now, maybe there's a little bit of a cut, but you have more experience than I do. So
I mean, I would say that, I mean, there are recruiters out there who, the benefit of a recruiter is we have a view of the entire market. Like we don't, if you're at your job, you just see your job, right? And that's one of the benefits of networking. You see too, you can kind of see what everyone else is doing and making kind of, for recruiters, I mean, our job is literally to scan the entire job market of real estate. So we know what's going on everywhere. And so even though, I mean, it's the worst when you work, I'll tell you as a recruiter, when you're working with a candidate, you're helping them find a job. And selfish too. I get paid to find you find a job. So I get that, but then they get a job somewhere else and it's fine. Like, hey, cool. Congratulations. I don't care. I'm happy you got a job. And then you contact them like a month later, say, hey man, like, do you know anyone that can like help me out? Do you know anyone who could fit this job? And they say, oh, I'm not looking right now. I can't, then they just write you off, right? They got what they want and that's it. That's not a great way to do business, but especially with recruiters, because we have the keys to the kingdom a lot of times, right? We know what's going on in every corner of the real estate industry. There are some recruiters out there that are like used car salesmen. You can probably tell who they are within 5 minutes. But a lot of them, I know myself and my team, we prided ourselves on just being more advisors. Keep those relationships open. You know what I mean? Talk to the recruiters, and they're the ones who can kind of help you. Like, it's be friends with them. You know what I mean? Like, you don't have to take any jobs from them or work any jobs with them, but just be friends with them and hop on the phone every once in a while and just tell them what's going on, and they'll tell you what's going on. It's just an easy way to get intel on the market. Sorry, my son's singing in the background. So that is, that's what I would do. I would just make sure you have like one recruiter out there that you're talking to regularly. And this way you can always bounce ideas off them and say, hey, what's going on? And, generally we know a lot more than, in that area of how to like level up. And we could just tell you like right now, like nothing's going on. Don't even look, you're cool. You know what I mean? Or like, hey, the market's hot right now. We should get your resume going and start taking some interviews here and there. You don't have to take the job, but like it can't hurt to have especially now, like when everyone's working from home, it can't hurt to have like a 20-minute phone call with a client. Just kind of find out where your market value is,
Back on that, it sounds like what you're saying, Chris, is even if you're not kind of looking for a new job or you kind of know in the back of your mind you eventually want to level up, quote unquote, it doesn't hurt to have the conversation with Chris or Mikey to know early to build that relationship. So when you are ready, or if you know somebody who's looking, you can refer, the business and then just develop a relationship professionally. I think that's key too.
Yeah, it's the worst part. The worst time to actually look for a job is when you really need one.
Right. And I would say that I've been let go. I mean, over the years now, 3 times.
Idiots.
Huh? And especially the last time I let go was 2008, 2009 during the downturn. And since then, that's why my network has expanded 100 times since 2009. I said next. You always have to think about your next job. I love BlackRock. I never plan to leave. I really don't. I love the work here. It's been 11 years now, but I'm always thinking about the next job. I could get let go tomorrow. Like my boss did a year ago, got let go within 10 minutes. I'm always thinking about my next job. And so that's why it's always good to network. Like I'm not even on the deal side of real estate. I analyze distressed loans, but I'm always networking because you never know. The next job, I may go back into capital raising like I did before. I need to build my network for that. So I'm always thinking about your next step, whether you're 22 or 62. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. piggybacking on sort of, he asked about keeping that fine line between like your boss finding out that you're looking. And so first of all, when you go through a recruiter, that's one of the advantages, is that we keep everything very confidential. You're not blasting out your resume. And I would say 95% of the candidates that at least Chris and I work with are not looking for a new job. You know, like a lot of the times the clients will ask us, why does this person want this job? And we'll be like, well, we spoke to this person for 3 years, kept a relationship with them, and then you gave us this job that was perfect for them, and that's why they want this job. Like,
Yeah.
that's the normal story. Like I've had people I placed 9 months after meeting them. You know, it's usually not that month. And in networking in general, you always need to build your network before you need it. Like, if I hadn't built up relationships with all these people for 15 years, I wouldn't be as good a recruiter as I am now, because now it's not, when I call someone because they're hiring, it's not the first time I'm calling them. Yeah. It's their 50th time I'm calling them, and so they'll take my call. It's really, really hard to have your first call to someone. Some people are great cold callers. They can just call anybody and get whatever they want, or sell ice to Eskimos. Like, and there's some people like that, but it's very, very hard when your first call to someone is when you need something from them. And you don't always help people before you ask for their help. And that's how I get, like, and it's not to say that you always have to have an ulterior motive, but if you can help someone and it doesn't cost you a lot, do it, because it will come back to you in spades. And like, you can always say to someone, I'm not looking now, but I'd love to learn about your company and what you do and see if I can help you. Or maybe I know someone. And then you get to get all the information about their company and what they do. And sometimes you don't know what you want to do. Like Chris said, like, I didn't know I wanted to be a recruiter. I was an attorney running a pooled income trust for the elderly, which is a not-for-profit. And I quit, and I was at a networking event, and I started talking to Chris, and he was like, oh, you know a lot of people here. What do you do with yourself? Do you want to be a recruiter? And I was like, I don't know. What do recruiters do? And he was like, well, we get people jobs. And I was like, okay. And then I came in.
I was like, you do exactly what you do now, but we pay you for it.
Yeah.
There you go. Chris and Mickey, I should probably join you one day. We should talk offline.
Dude, you'd be amazing. Yeah.
We always need more. But yeah, so you can always switch it to an informational interview versus a real interview if you don't feel comfortable taking an interview. And it's always just more knowledge. The more you know, the better equipped you are in life, and like the farther you can go. And I would say for Mike, though, it's not always about salary. Like, a lot of the higher you get up, the more complicated the equation is. Like, for most of the people Chris and I place, it's not about 5 or 10 grand salary raise. Like, some people take salary cuts for better lifestyle or equity, or like if they're the number 2 and the number 1 is never retiring and they want to be the number 1, or like general counsel. I don't know if we have lawyers. I think there's some lawyers in the group. If you're going from a big law firm to general counsel, you typically will take a large pay cut on cash comp, but maybe you'll get equity, and you also will get to leave the office much earlier and have a life. For a lot of candidates, especially female candidates, like, remote days can be a big part of the equation too. So it's usually not about salary at a certain level.
Yeah. But then, so Jeff's asking here, hi Chris, how do architects connect with affordable housing developers? I reached out a couple of years ago without luck. I mean, the way I meet, it's basically the same way I meet my clients. Like, I become friends with them basically before they ever use me. It's not like they just say, hey, Chris. Generally, that's how it works. My best clients are people who kind of knew me somehow beforehand through other, I had worked with some other partners of theirs on deals on filling stuff or something like that. So it's never like, my suggestion is to kind of do, if you're really into affordable housing, get involved with affordable housing. Then these people will get to know you, whether it's the conferences, whether it's being involved with an affordable housing organization as a volunteer or a nonprofit, I mean, these people kind of get to know, oh, then they realize, hey, this is Jeff the architect. And then one day they're going to need an architect and be like, hey, don't we know Jeff? We love that guy. Let's hire him. And that's kind of how a lot of the times it is with my business. Sometimes it is just me just advertising or whatever. But most of the time it's like, hey, like I met Chris 5 years ago, or 2 years ago or whatever. And now I need a recruiter. So let's call them up. So and that same way is with jobs. You just got to, it's not really a short-term game. It's a marathon. You got to think way ahead, so that would be my suggestion. One is like maybe connecting on LinkedIn's great too. Like you just connect with go to the top guy at the firm, just connect with him on LinkedIn. He might connect with you back. And then you start posting interesting things about affordable housing and all of a sudden it's on his feed. And he starts associating Jeff with affordable housing. And he'll be like, hey, who is this guy, Jeff? And then he'll maybe like, hey, let's have a conversation or grab coffee or something like that. So, find indirect ways to connect the clients with Jeff and affordable housing, right? Find not direct ways because no one wants to be sold to all the time, So that's how I do. That's how I get my clients, right? They associate Chris with recruiting, but I'm never going knocking on their door saying, hey, can I fill some jobs for you?
Right.
That's my suggestion.
One question that a couple college kids asked me in the last week was, the summer with the virus, who knows what's going on? What things can I do virtually to help build my resume, like Excel classes or Bloomberg certifications? And I was going to ask you guys what your thoughts were. What can they add if we are at home this summer? What can you add to build your soft skills or financial skills?
I mean, I started I'm awful at Excel. I've always wanted to be good at Excel. Not really. I always wanted to be okay at Excel. Well, I always wanted to just be able to do something in Excel. And so I actually, Isabella Sand, who's on my team, I think she's on this call too. She started taking an Excel course online and underwriting course, real estate underwriting course online. And I was like, oh, I'm going to try doing that. And now, people, being Argus certified or Excel certified in some way is great, but it's not like the make or break it. But those are, from my understanding, if you're going to be an analyst in real estate, you better know that stuff. Because that's kind of the basics of what you're going to be doing if you're going to be coming in as an analyst. Just kind of, so.
A lot of the attendees are chiming in with some good recommendations as well.
Okay.
Khan. And so Doug and I see each other all the time at events, and it allows us to always keep each other in mind, and we're always referring people to each other.
It kind of relates to.
Okay.
I would say read every publication you can get. You can read Biz Now, read The Real Deal, read Cranes, read the Wall Street Journal, because you have the time, you're sitting at home, you could either watch Tiger King again, or you could get yourself informed. Because the more you absorb, and even read things not about real estate, just about the economy, or about, if you're interested in medical stuff, read about medical tech or medical stuff. Or if you're interested in affordable housing, read about that, because the more you know what's going on, the more you'll be able to bring something to your boss. Your job when you get hired out of college is to make your boss's life easier. Right. I don't care what your job description actually says. And I've had to tell this to candidates too sometimes when they start, because they get this job description and they're like, well, that's not my job description. I'm like, your job is to make your boss's life easier. If you do that, he will spend time, or she will mentor you and will spend time with you. If you make his or her life harder, you're going to be gone.
Right. And I'm starting to send out a daily, anyone on this call, I'm starting to send out a daily email. Just started 2 weeks ago I'm compiling articles I find in real estate or macroeconomics and finance, and sending them out to large groups. Anyone wants to be added to it, I'll add to it. I'll add your name. And I think it's important to just keep learning, because when I interview someone or just talk to a student, I love when I hear a student talk real estate like I've known them forever. like in an interview, when I interview someone, I like just to talk real estate. I'm looking at nationwide real estate, just someone who we can have a good conversation. Then I know they'll be able to pick it up quickly, and they know they're reading the markets. They understand what's going on with retail, hotel right now, malls over the past couple of years. WeWork, they know all that. Then I know they're gonna be quick learners.
And this guy, Echo, has a question. Hi, Chris and Mickey. Thanks so much for sharing the insights. I wonder, in terms of job market, does it make a difference to graduate in fall versus spring? Which one has more advantages? For me, I mean, real estate is not generally, I mean, if you're working for a bank, they have like their hiring season. They're like, we're going to hire somebody for 2025. They sign you up. But it's real estate's, they hire you usually 6 months after they need somebody. So it's just as needed generally. I think maybe some of the, maybe there's some shops out there that kind of do like classes, they have any entering class. I mean, it depends. If you're going to like a lot of the private equity firms will have like, somebody coming in, but I don't think it really makes much of a difference. I haven't noticed that any difference when you graduate. And any advice on networking during COVID-19? We addressed that a little bit, but my advice for you or for anyone is, if you're on LinkedIn, I've seen tons of webinars all the time. And it's real estate webinars. Sign up for them. I'll give you a secret. You don't even have to attend or even listen. Sign up for them and then see who's like on the webinar, and then just send those people a message. Hey, thank you for being on the webinar yesterday. I'll tell you the secret to my success. How I grew my business was out of the last recession. I was sitting around with nothing to do because there was no jobs, and I was like, hey, I want to really make my brand. And I like, people were saying, like Mickey was saying, like, I read every real estate article there was, and any name that was mentioned or company that was mentioned, I would write it down. I created a spreadsheet, and then I found out who worked there, and I would like contact them, and I'd send them an email. I'd figure out their email address by going on their website and figuring out like, oh, it's got to be maybe first name, last name, it was just hard, tedious work. And I would send them an email. Hey, read in the Observer Tribune today that you closed a deal or did a lease or whatever. Congratulations, and people would be like, who the hell is this guy? Yeah, but I would, that was the opening of this relationship. I created this big spreadsheet, and I would just contact, after that, I would just kind of every once in a while contact these people. Right. And that's how I did it. That is how I built my business. Like, I literally just went through and while everyone was sitting around complaining there was no jobs to do, I was like, all right, I can figure out a way to make this work to my advantage. And that's how I think you could do networking. So there's a lot of people that are going to be like just throwing up their hands in the air. Like, all right, I'm going to spend the next couple of weeks doing nothing. And while you're out there, like learning and finding these different companies and researching them online and emailing them, and just, you come out of this ahead.
I think also like networking doesn't always have to be so professional or so calculated. Like, all your friends are also your network. Like, even if they're not in your business, like they might end up meeting someone in your business or no. So like, be a good friend to, especially like during a time like now, like some people are like stressed. And if you just like are there for people when they are actually in trouble, like they'll remember that, and they'll come back to you. They'll think about you when they see, oh, my friend's hiring for something. You should call my friend Mickey. So especially like in times of crisis, just like being a good person, it will be remembered.
Got more questions?
A lot of people got to know the different academies and boot camps and stuff.
In regards to the fall spring thing, I think it only really matters for like super institutional places. Like Chris said, like banks, iBanking programs are very specific, but for most of the firms we work with, he's right. They just hire like when they need when the work is too much for the amount of people they have.
Yeah. Echo has a question. Thanks so much for the advice. Is there a specific group account on LinkedIn posting these webinars? I mean, it's IMN. It's like, that's a big conference. So like Juniper Square, it's a lot of the service companies will host these webinars, kind of like, we're here. Like, so like Juniper Square is a big, it tracks, it's good for like IR and funds and stuff like that, and real estate funds. So they have a lot of different ones I'm seeing out there on LinkedIn. I mean, probably ULI, NAOP, all those different organizations that you're probably going to anyways, or hopefully going to anyways if you're in real estate. And Mike, Mickey, that's you, Mickey. It's Juniper Square, BizNow, IMN, Real Deal.
Yeah, Real Deal has a lot of them. Walker Dunlap has a weekly one. CREFC, they have a weekly one. I don't know how that works.
Any of the service companies that aren't like who are servicing the real estate industry will have them, because they need to keep, and like brokerage companies, because they need to keep the blood flowing, right? So they got to keep people interested, like in the company. So instead of doing their actual job, they're trying to provide education.
James Nelson from Avison Young has like a really good course on commercial real estate that I think is really interesting.
Yeah, and a lot of these websites have gone free. Like Commercial Observer, I think is free now. They have webinars, and even Wall, like I'm not a student, so Wall Street Journal now is $1 for 2 months. So I actually, it's not like you could. A lot of these things are now are cheap or free. A lot of these things you can read things.
Yeah, it's actually, it's pretty cool. It does take time. I sign up for a lot of them. I don't go to a lot of them. I sign up for a lot of them because I never know when I'm going to have and you can just hop on for 20 minutes or something if you want to.
It's good to sign up for them. I always tell people, always sign up for them, because some of them will email you the replay. So as long as you sign up for them, and they'll eat like I was on registered for one the other day. I didn't attend. I forgot about it. They sent me the link for their online demand, and it was great. So always just sign up for them anyway. The webinars that you find, and just if you can't make it, just you'll hear the on demand, and you pick up one thing. It's positive.
Yeah, even like you guys were saying, you could take away from these webinars, whether it's you see who's on the webinar, or there's an email list. Like you get an email after the webinar with the recording. Sometimes it goes out to the whole list, and you'll see every single person on there. And like Chris did when last recession, he just reached out and said, hey, I'm going to point out Sean Slattery because I see him there, and I know my name's Sean Slattery, and I saw you working on this. I thought it was very interesting, thought we could connect. And it's that first touch point, that'll lead to just future communications. And
exactly. And there was like 3 years ago, I think now it is a good time to cold email or LinkedIn people. I mean, I got an email 3 years ago from a kid from Indiana University, and just a great email to my BlackRock. He must have figured out it's Mike.Strug at BlackRock. And I said, this is a really good email. I replied to him. And actually made him a lot of introductions. He was from the Midwest. I made him a lot of introductions to companies. He got a job, not through me, but I kind of built momentum, and you never know what a cold email will lead to. So I think it's good to reach out to people, and you never know if you'll find someone who will help you out.
Yeah, and don't get discouraged too easily, Matt. I've heard before it takes 7 touch points for someone to really feel like they trust you. So, I mean, be active on your LinkedIn account too. I mean, there are people, just be active, be out there. Don't be pushy though, but just, it's more about hey, like I said, the congratulatory email. I love that email. If someone sent me a congratulatory email, hey man, I saw you did this deal. I'd be like, shit, I like that. It's got to make me feel good about myself. That's more so than hey, can you find me a job? It's
Also, subconsciously, the more times you've been in the same room as someone, the next time they like you more, because it's like a time from when you were a caveman. It's still in our DNA or subconscious, whatever. That if they've been in the same room enough with you and nothing bad has happened, they're not a threat. And so there's just showing up to everything in the industry. Obviously now we can't do that as much, but once we can, just have to show up and smile, and the more times you do it, the more you become part of the community.
Yeah. And then, so Daniel has another question. Thank you guys for all the insight. Do big companies like BlackRock care if you worked at smaller firms? Does it look bad on a resume, even though you received great experience? I mean, BlackRock people are generally pretty snobby, but I'll let Mike take that question.
Exactly. He's 100% wrong. See, I and BlackRock's I know Daniel's asking this question, but it's very different. BlackRock's different. It's that first of all, they're school agnostic. I mean, they don't. I mean, any school, although anyone applied. I mean, it doesn't matter what school you go to. And that's what I really respect about them. It's not like these firms that weren't in a certain college or something like that. They're school agnostic, and they just want someone who's going to work hard. Doesn't matter what background it is. Doesn't matter what school you went to. Doesn't matter where you're from. I mean, it is regional. We do have an office in Wilmington, Delaware, Princeton, Seattle, Atlanta. So it's kind of regional that way. But and that's why I like the management. It's all about working hard. So it doesn't matter if you're a smaller firm, a larger firm before, as long as you just interview well, I think you could get the job.
I mean, I'll tell you, if you're looking for like, if you want to be like an analyst on the real estate team, equity team at Blackstone, it's hard. I mean, they do have like, all right, this person's got to come from a good school generally, and they got to have a GPA over 3.5, and 99.9% of the time, that's kind of, it's just hard. It's just a very like hard to get into those. But I've actually seen people come out of like made convincing arguments to get them in for the interview, and then they just liked them so much, and they were so humble and were willing to do whatever it took. You know what I mean? Like that
Right.
They actually hired them. Like I've seen it happen before when it's like, wow, I can't believe that guy from that school, wasn't Penn or Harvard, got that job. It does happen. So, I mean, part of it depends on you too, but it is super. I mean, I'm not going to lie to you. Like going to like one of those really like Carlisle or something like that, or Blackstone, it is on the equity side. It is hard to get it. If you went to, I would to Rutgers, good school, not like an Ivy League school, but it would have been really hard for me to get, unless I had like a 3.9 GPA and like did all these ton of extracurriculars. It would have been hard for me to get that type of role at one of those top firms. But then, I mean, it depends what you want in the long term. I mean, if you want to be, Anthony started his own shop, right? I mean, you don't have to go to any school to do that, right? I mean,
my dad didn't go to college.
Yeah. I mean, you could, if you want to start your own. My uncle is a very successful developer in Virginia. He was an attorney. He went to, a non-accredited law school back in the day. He went to SUNY Albany, and now he's like, very successful developer. So you don't really necessarily need that experience. But if you want to work for one of those Blackstones or something, I'm just telling you, when I was a kid, I used to think, I have to work for one of these big shops in order to be successful. You don't have to do that. Just get it anywhere, find your niche.
Right. And like I was speaking to the student earlier today, it's like, see, when you're 19 or 20, 21, all you know is, physically, all you know is certain amount of companies. Only a certain amount of companies recruit to any school. So you only know, like, you're in your mind right now, if you're 19 or 20, you know X amount, right? When you're between 22 and 24, you're going to learn 10 times as many companies, because you'll be going to other places and you'll meet, oh my God, there's all these companies out there. I went to business school in New York. When I got out, I started networking a lot. I said, wait, hundreds of schools here. Sorry, hundreds of companies, not just Heinz or related. And it's like, who knew? I didn't know, because at school they didn't tell you, they didn't recruit. But once so, age 22, 26, 27, you start learning about a ton of companies.
Yeah, and there's a lot of like, New York is amazing because there's so much money, and you could walk by them, you would never know. Like the company that called me today, like they told me what they owned. I'd never heard of it in my entire life. I was like, holy, I can't believe they have so much money. And like, there's a lot, like we work with some other clients where it's like, you would never know that they are like the richest families in New York, right? Or they own so much real estate. And they, what the thing is, like with family offices, you don't know about them.
Right.
They might not pay as well up front to start, to be frank, but you get really good experience there because you're going to be learning everything.
Agreed.
Yeah. I think certain of the more institutional, the more the brands matter. And everything opens doors. Like the more if you're at Stern, I went to Stern for undergrad, the schools come to you. And whereas like if you're somewhere else, you might have to work a little harder to get in the door. But it's also like sometimes you think you want something, but it's not actually what you want. And Chris hasn't really talked about his podcast. So he hosts a podcast I sometimes co-host, And we purposely interview a lot of people who didn't take the linear path. Because the linear path, sort of everybody knows what it is, and it's very pushed by the schools, and it's pushed by the institutions because it serves them, but it might not serve you. And like, it's more important to figure out where in real estate, you put in a lot of hours. You know, you put in 12 to 16 hour days sometimes when you're at the junior level. Do you want to do that for like a place you don't actually like being, or do you want to like your colleagues? Is the corporate culture, you know, what you like? And listen, if you can get your foot in the door at one of the brand names for 2-3 years, bust your ass, then you can open a lot of doors. But you might learn something different at a smaller shop where you can wear more hats. So it really depends on. It's not a one size fits all.
Yeah. The TBG Real Estate Podcast is our podcast, and we have people from. I mean, Anthony's been on there. We have people from all over the globe who are in real estate, and real estate is so much more than just underwriting deals. I mean, there's so much more involved with real estate. And I imagine most, like Mike was saying, like I came out of college and I thought you could be like my dad was in like project management on the construction side, and my mom was a nurse, and like my family was cops. And I was like, all right, those are my 3 options. Like I didn't know what I mean. And then you get out there, there's so many ways to be involved in real estate. I just interviewed a guy who, you know, created an app for like a front doorman app, you know, and just he's in real estate, you know, he's going to the conferences, and I'm in real estate. I'm a recruiter for real estate. Mickey's in real estate. I don't, you know, I invest in real estate on the side with the money that I earn. So you don't, just because you're just not the analyst at the BlackRock or Blackstone or Carlisle doesn't mean you're not in real estate.
I also think like the management side of the business, obviously not as sexy, but if you ever want to run your own firm, like having sat behind a desk and analyzed numbers in an Excel that are basically completely theoretical, like isn't necessarily going to serve you. Like my brother worked as a super in some of our buildings. And so when we like want to buy a building, like I go talk to the supers. I don't want to see the Excels. I want to see the plumbing. I want to see the boiler. When's the last time they replaced that? And so like, it's very good to have the fundamentals on the Excel and to be able to build out these beautiful waterfall models. But real estate, I think Mike said this, Anthony said this on a webinar he hosted for our team, like real estate at its bare bones is not that complicated. And if you have to make it complicated, the building probably doesn't make sense. Like my dad models out on a napkin and he's like, here's the rent, here's what I could pay for this. Like, that's it.
Yeah. No, I agree. And also depends what asset class. I don't know what he's buying. Probably, it sounds like multifamily. So, right. Well, yeah. So,
buildings.
Got it. Yeah. I mean, there's not, what you guys are saying, there's really not one, if you go down one path and let's just say you want to try out, a brokerage job comes across your desk and you're like, shit, I didn't really want to go into brokerage from the start. Maybe I'll just keep looking, and you look for another couple months and there's really nothing else out there at the time. You might want to take the brokerage job. Because, I mean, the brokerage, to be honest, maybe I should have started out in brokerage because I would have saw all asset classes, and that would have been a great experience. And then from there, you learn what you like, and you may be someone who, and what Chris was saying, like, yeah, you don't have to go to a top school. It's going to be harder for you to get into places like Blackstone and whatnot. But it also depends on, your goals are going to change, a couple years into your career, especially in real estate. You're going to find out what you like and what you don't like. And for those, people who are a little bit more, I guess, seasoned, you found your niche and you know exactly what you want. And what Chris was saying before, the way that you need to target I would even call them customers or potential job opportunities. Like Mike was saying, he's already thinking about the future. If something ever happened to him, you want to be thinking about that and implementing those practices as early as possible while you're doing whatever you're doing. But your paths are going to change. My path changed. it's a living example of that. And, it's an evolving marketplace, just like we're doing webinars now. Webinars were not as popular prior to COVID, and now they're becoming extremely popular. I have a feeling they're going to be even more popular after COVID too. So, it sounds like getting yourself out there in any capacity from the entry level, and then, taking the next step from, if you're already seasoned, just approaching the job search a little bit in a different way if you are searching. Or if you're not searching, always have it in the back of your mind that you're open to opportunities and open to connecting with people. Because I can't tell you how many people that I know. I mean, I've been in the business 6 years, 6.5. And, I have a few of my friends that have been in the industry for a while, and they're happy where they are, but there might actually be a really good opportunity that they're not even thinking about. And they've always shut down recruiters that reach out to them because they have a great background. They're always like, I'm good where I am. I like the salary. I'm comfortable. It's only going to get you so far. If you're not really growing and you're just comfortable because you have a nice 6-figure cushy salary, that's not going to get you that far. You really need to look at your career aspirations. And if that's what you want, that's in my mind, that would be an issue. But it goes back to what you guys were saying before. It's a matter of getting your foot in the door and then figuring out what you want. Once you figure out what you want, going after what you want. So
yeah, getting in the door is the hardest part, no matter what it is, whether it's property management, brokerage, getting that job. Once you're in real estate, then you could there's a level of confidence. And then when you're going to these different networking events, you're in the game already, right? So, I mean, and the fact that you guys, anyone who's on this webinar, that means you're actually putting effort into your life and moving yourself in the direction you want to go. I would just say, if you're not getting the results you want right now, okay, it might take a long time, but just keep going. And it's actually fun to learn this stuff too.
Recruiting is also a really good way to learn the business, because I joke that it's basically like an MBA in running a real estate company, because we talk to them about their business strategy, why they're hiring for this. You learn a lot from really senior people in the industry. I never knew much about hospitality or co-living, and now I'm almost an expert on it because I work with a few companies on it. So
we know how to build real estate organizations, and it's I didn't really know much about it either, and I think I definitely got an MBA in it just from talking to people for the last 15 years and the ins and outs. Like I said, recruiting was nothing I wanted to do, and I'm not pitching everyone to be a recruiter, but and if you want to call me, not anyone else, because we by far the best. But
definitely,
there's a lot of those kind of side avenues into real estate that you might not have thought of before. That just try it out, especially when you're younger. I mean, when you get older, I got a mortgage, I got a kid. I can't just say, hey, I'm going to try something out. I got responsibilities. Right. When you're in your 20s and you kind of don't mind living off ramen and living with roommates, hop on it. Try the brokerage thing. You might hate it, you might love it, but you might meet somebody there that kind of changes your life. So
yeah, and it sounds like we're gonna wind down the conversation. And just to piggyback on that a little bit, Chris, you mentioned, maybe Mickey did too, property management not being a sexy job. More operators and developers, sponsors are going to need good property managers more than ever, because they're really gonna, no matter what asset class they're in, they're in a little bit of trouble, and they need to tighten their operations. So I would be open to that, especially if let's say your goal is to, open your own shop one day. Property management, like Mickey was saying, what the supers knowledge is by far the most important, because once your operations are off a little bit, you have a problem. So, I would say if there's a property management opportunity, then I would seriously consider it, and not for it to be demeaning or anything. It's honestly, it's much more useful than, pumping out Excel models and Argus models, in my opinion, because it's more, like Mickey said, tangible, real life, real estate experience on the ground, talking to engineers and really understanding what goes behind the numbers, because the numbers can come next, so just kind of piggybacking on that a little bit. For me, starting my own shop, I was involved in property management on a very small scale, but at least I was involved and I was kind of helping oversee a few buildings. That really helped me when I started my own shop. I was less nervous to pull the trigger on it for sure. So definitely be open-minded. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree.
Also, like, we didn't touch on this that much, but I see we have a lot of women on the call. And I think, like, if you're a woman who wants to, like, be successful, like, commercial real estate's a great place because there's not enough of us. And all these companies want to have more diverse viewpoints and more diverse staff. And so they're, like, asking and interested in hiring more women. And I think, like, so if anyone wants any advice, any women want to talk about that with me, side note, or we can even have like a side webinar or a conversation or group chat about like how to position yourself as a woman in a kind of a man's world. Like I've never felt disadvantaged as a woman. And I think a lot of that is just like owning it. I think it's actually a big advantage.
There's a question for you, Anthony. I don't know if you see it, but would you say that going into property management will hurt you if you decide to get into a real estate finance role later in your career?
I should talk too. I mean, my first job in real estate was in Houston, was property management. It was Prudential, New Jersey-based Prudential had buildings in Houston. It was the office properties. And that was my first job. I mean, literally the first thing I know, I was not a business major or anything, I was a math major. I got a job in property. I started falling in love with real estate. There's a couple of properties. And I only lasted a year there before our whole team was let go, but it got me to the next job, Cushman and Wakefield. And I always think that first job, property management, made me understand, how the building works, with tenants and renewing them and getting involved with that.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I didn't know that.
Yeah. No, that's exactly what Mike said. I don't think it will hurt you at all. It'll only make you stronger. I mean, I can't tell you how many guys get recruited out of Harvard or Yale and they work for Blackstone and acquisitions on the equity side, and they never step foot at any of the properties. They're literally behind a desk all day pumping out models. Yeah, you can be a great Excel modeler, but what is that going to get you? You're not really going to understand the fundamentals. You're going to see it on, as a projection and a pro forma, and you're going to understand the numbers, but at the same time, you're not understanding like what's the life of the HVAC system. Like, you just don't have that knowledge. What's, like Mickey mentioned, what's the life of the roof? What kind of roof is it? What kind of construction is it? Understanding the construction, and even I'm learning every day with it. I wish I had more knowledge on construction prior to starting my company. I'm just seeing it more prevalent because it also makes you a better cost estimator when you are doing those projections. So definitely property management is not going to hurt whatsoever. If only it's going to make you more stronger.
Yeah, and you can always practice that stuff on your side too. I mean, the modeling courses, you can model deals every day, like practice, find a deal find a deal with a broker and just model it out. You don't need to actually work at a company to do it. Anyhow.
Asset management, it's a real asset to have done property management. On the acquisition side, I don't think they look at it enough. I think they should value it more. But on the asset management side, it's very common for them to want to see that someone understands the properties.
Yeah, if you have the operational side and the financial side, I mean, that's really not many people have that both skill set. And
then you could be like the COO also. That's like a really good background to be a COO and something like that.
It's like a accountant within a personality. Deadly.
Yeah. I'm an accountant,
I know. Look at you. That's what I'm talking about.
There you go. All right. How much more time do we got, guys? Do we wrap it up?
I gotta hop off soon. I gotta make some dinner for my 9-year-old.
All right. Sure, a lot of us are doing the same thing. Well, any other concluding questions while we have Chris and Mickey's and Mike's attention? These are some high profile people. We don't have their attention this often. So
If you want to email, I'll put my email in the notes here. Anyone wants to email me, I'm not going to guarantee I can respond like immediately, but somebody on my team will respond. I would definitely like try to connect with people on the TBG real estate team. My LinkedIn, I've reached the end of the LinkedIn universe. So I have to subtract connections in order to get them, to get new ones. So I might not accept you. Don't take it personally, please. I just don't have any more room on there. But if you type in TBG real estate or the Back Rack group or Mickey, I think Mickey has a lot of connections left, maybe.
I still have left. Yeah. I'm not at 50,000 yet.
So, connect with her. I mean, we're one big family, one big team. We all know what's going on. The head knows what the heart's doing and everything, so if you connect with them, you connect with me. If you connect with me, you connect with them. So, please do that. And we would love to develop a relationship with you. It's not, I'll be frank, it's not the easiest to place new grads because they don't necessarily pay us for that. But we would love to, give you advice and point you in the right direction and send you to the right networking events and, try our best to recommend you to our clients. We probably won't receive a fee for it, but that's fine. We're all about trying to add value to our clients. So, please reach out and, best of luck to you all. And I really appreciate you listening to us. Oh, wait, hold on. One more from Dan. Dan's very active here. Reflecting back on your careers, would you guys do anything differently? I would have taken a broker or property management. I interviewed for a property management role, Cooper Square, which was now First Service. A long time ago, assistant property management role. I didn't know the difference between a condo and a co-op at the time. So I don't know if they even do now, but that's why they didn't hire me. It was a very low level job. I would have probably pursued that a little more. I wish it's harder now that I'm like older to kind of get into something like that, but I would have at least tried to explore that, you know what I mean? Or the brokerage side when I didn't really necessarily need the money.
Yeah, I mean, I can answer that. Like, you never know what your career is going to happen, like what's going to happen. Like, I was a lender from 01 to 09, and then I lost my job during the downturn. Like a lot of people losing jobs now. I lost it in 09, and then this company in Charlotte started a CMBS analytics platform to support bond investors. If you remember the movie The Big Short, the problem was understanding the underlying properties that no one really looked at during the residential crisis. And this consulting company said, let's look at the underlying loans and properties that the CMBS commercial investors, bond investors were buying. So this group started because of the downturn. So you never know what's going to happen in your career. Always good to set goals. I always set goals. But just know that you may get a job in 8 years that it can't exist right now, but you could be a star in that 8 years from now. So just be willing to keep reading and adapt to what's going on.
Take chances. Now's the time to take some chances. And, at the beginning of your career, if you have 5 jobs in 5 years, like at the beginning of your career, like no one's going to really care, really. You don't even have to put it on your resume. So, try stuff out, take some internships, take some free internships if you can afford it, if you're living at home or something. That's what I would do. That's what I would have done.
Everything happens for a reason. So that's what I like to believe. In terms of doing anything differently, I don't think so, because everything happens for a reason. There's obviously things that probably could have done better, but I just think everything happens for a reason.
Yep.
Yeah, I would say the same thing, because like if I had left the not-for-profit earlier, I might not have met Chris at that exact right time. So like, I don't know. I don't think I would change much just because I like where I ended up. But my best advice to anybody is just work for someone that you like working for, because that's going to make a big difference, like no matter what you're doing.
Right.
Yeah. And the reason I started this podcast is to help people. Like I stressed out so much about like making the right decision when I was early in my career. Like, oh, I got to do this or that, the other thing. And then I got into my career and I love what I'm doing. And I talked to so many people and they ended up successful in whatever, but they had no clue. Like they took so many there's no straight and narrow, basically, 90% of the people in the world just kind of wind their way to where they are. So don't stress. Just try things out. Try things you like to do. That's what I would suggest.
Great. Is that it?
Don't stress.
Thank you very much.
Stress.
Thanks, guys. That was great.
All right, great. Thanks everybody for coming on this late at night, and appreciate it. And I know Chris is recording this, so maybe you'll post
We'll
it
put it
to
out.
LinkedIn.
Put it out. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Great.
Thank
Thanks
you,
again
Mike,
so
for
much.
organizing.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks for coming on.